So without further ado, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our December virtual Coffee and Commerce, the last Coffee and Commerce of 2020. Today, we are joined by Eugene Campbell with the ECCR Group and Jamaal Salaman with the JS Tax Corporation and presented by Populytics. At this time, I ask that if you haven't already, please make sure to mute your mics and turn off your camera so we can limit any interruptions. And I will invite you to unmute and resume your videos later on in the program. In just a few minutes, Eugene and Jamaal will dive into small business and entrepreneurial business tools, teaching us all how to survive in 2020 and how to prepare our businesses to thrive. They'll go in depth on managing through a crisis, the importance of small business vision planning, realistic budgeting, and so much more. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit them in the chat box or wait to ask them live at the end of the presentation. I would also like to recognize today's sponsor, Populytics. With us today, we have Thomas E. Young, the Strategic Engagement Lead at Populytics. Thank you so much for sponsoring this series, and without your support, we really wouldn't be able to provide this content to our members, so thank you so much. And also, Populytics will be sponsoring again the 2021 series, so a big shout out to them. So now I am going to introduce and turn it over to Thomas to make a few sponsor remarks. So Thomas, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you before this month's virtual Coffee and Commerce event. COVID-19 has upended just about every aspect of our personal and professional lives over the last 7 months. With Pennsylvania experiencing a recent jump in cases, it is incumbent upon employers to focus on a multi-pronged approach to keep workers healthy, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. Not long ago, I saw a quote from Jim Clifton, CEO of Gallup, that I think sums up where we are as leaders and where we need to drive the conversation about health, wellness, and well-being. The most important dial on any leader's dashboard for the next 20 years will be well-being. At Preferred EAP, Lehigh Valley Health Network's Employee Assistance Program, we have been consulting and counseling many area leaders on pandemic fatigue due to COVID-19. Simply put, pandemic fatigue is the impact on our bodies resulting from chronic stress. Many employees have reported they have not gotten enough sleep, have felt hopeless, and less engaged in activities they used to find enjoyable, all clear signs of pandemic fatigue. Preferred EAP has conducted many live webinars on this topic for organizations, and we would be happy to present to your team. As I'm sure you know, worksite well-being is not just the latest buzzword. It is an area that has evolved from simple employee perk programs to comprehensive packages, giving employees incentives, tools, social support, privacy, and strategies to adopt and maintain healthy behaviors. Making investments in these areas not only supports the competitive recruitment process, but also has an impact on decreasing turnover and maintaining healthcare costs. With so many avenues available under the well-being umbrella, I encourage you to engage with Populytics to support future decisions about managing the well-being of your employees as your organizations grow and transform. Populytics is a wholly owned subsidiary of Lehigh Valley Health Network designed to support the movement to value-based care. Value-based care places emphasis on evaluating the total cost of care for an employee population instead of a singular office visit or procedure. For Populytics specifically, we focus on connecting with employers across the network's footprint, including the NEPA region and surrounding communities. In our conversations, we aim to provide education on the avenues available both through the services Populytics can provide, as well as those of the network at large. The primary ways in which Populytics engages with employers include occupational medicine services available locally through LVHN Health Center at Tannersville. Encompassed in this is our COVID-19 support of those returning to work, school, and sports. We have a myriad of resources from medical director consulting to testing available to Populytics and LVHN to support employers across all industries. In fact, LVHN recently announced we will be providing free COVID vaccinations to the community, and our occupational medicine team will be leading that charge in the employer community. Mental health support, coaching, and consulting available through Preferred EAP, comprehensive corporate wellness solutions provided by Benefit Corporate Wellness, and strategic collaboration with Highmark on a joint insurance product called Lehigh Valley Flex Blue. With all these services, our objective is to support leaders in creating a culture of well-being that permeates the population. Employers who are passionate about the health and well-being of their employees and are committed to a long-term strategic focus will see the benefits mentioned earlier. LVHN has invested in these resources for our own colleague base of 20,000 and growing. We use our population as a learning lab to test our services before bringing them to market. Populytics and LVHN are only a phone call or email away as a resource to support you and your organizations. The Chamber team has my contact information. I'm happy to serve as a connector for anyone who has questions about services or would like to strategize on how to leverage resources available at LVH Pocono and across LVHN. We are privileged to have the opportunity to serve employers and communities in the Pocono region and look forward to working with you on your well-being journey. Thank you for your time and attention this morning. I'll hand it back to Liz to move us on to the rest of the agenda.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas. And again, to the entire team at Populytics. I know we're also joined by Tyler Pace this morning. Your support is huge. And again, thank you for sponsoring not only this year's series, but next year's as well. We really appreciate it. So now I would like to turn it over and introduce today's speakers, Eugene Campbell with the ECCR Group and Jamaal Solomon with the JS Tax Corporation. So Eugene and Jamaal, please feel free to take it away. The floor is yours. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Liz. Good morning. Happy holidays to everyone. And our sponsor has really given us some food for thought about mental health. And that's part of our topic today. Don't just survive in 2021, but prepare your business to thrive. Again, my name is Eugene Campbell. I'm CEO of the ECCR Group. We are a 5-year-old company. I am a certified business coach, emergency coach, and I'm also a SBA score mentor that I volunteer with other people who are looking to start up their business. In a few minutes, Jamaal is going to introduce himself and his company, the JS Tax Corporation. Liz, we can advance to the next slide. One of the things that we are going to do, we shortened this presentation because we originally were going to do it on the 17th, but we wanted to focus a little bit more on customer engagement. How do small businesses get customers in this kind of environment? We're hearing about restaurants, we're hearing about service providers that are just trying to figure out how do they reach people. And I want to share my experience, my failures, my mistakes, and how I've been able to find what I call the ideal person. We are not going to go through every single item on these slides, but want to kind of give you an overview so we have enough time for Q&A. But I just want to take a moment to set the stage about the current business climate that, yes, there are over 25 million Americans who started to own the business. Each year, there are 650,000 businesses that open, but there's almost an equal number that close their doors. And that is an alarming trend that I'm trying to work to see what I can do to help keep those businesses from closing and the ones that are opening to help them to continue to grow. 60% of startups are people between the ages of 40 and 60. Yay! You know, that we are finding people who are deciding to become entrepreneurs and at that age group. Next slide. So, you know, good day, you know, and one of the things that I want to do is just talk about how do you become efficient while improving your customer conversion process while cutting costs and increasing revenue in less than 90 days. But what does all that mean? When I first started, it was me. It was me. I had to do everything. I had to, you know, I had to call people, I had to book calls. I was trying to do everything. And I was losing customers as I was trying to book them because I was doing outreach, engagement. And the other thing is that I didn't understand targeted engagement. I was just posting ads and sending things out into the universe and Facebook. And so one of the things that I started realizing, I was spending more money, wasn't being efficient as a small business owner. So one of the things that we do is Jamaal and I working together to target startups, small businesses, people who don't have a lot of staff, people who need help trying to figure out how to engage the technology. Next slide. So, one of the things that when people come to me, small businesses come to us, they are struggling to find what I would call their ideal customer. And the ideal customer is someone who needs or can utilize your project or service. That's it in a nutshell. My wife is from Antigua. When we go to Antigua, one of my challenges is that they are a tea drinking country. They don't drink coffee. I'm a New Yorker. I want coffee. So how does this ideal customer find that one place on this beautiful island that serves coffee? And that took a challenge for me. And the only place was the airport. So I spent a lot of time going to Antigua, going to the airport to get coffee. And once you connect to your ideal customer, can you sell? Can you upscale your product or service? Next slide. So trying to find the ideal customer. What were people doing before? I'll share my mistakes. I was placing ads in newspapers, not saying any of these things are wrong, but I was placing ads in newspapers and Facebook to find customers. But I really wasn't talking to the newspaper sales team, Facebook sales team, to explain to them who I'm trying to find. I just said, I'm just going to try to do this on my own. So why didn't it work? Well, one of the things is that I remember I put Facebook ad in, I'm a business coach, work with me, here's what I can do. And it just sort of drift out into space, and it wasn't reaching a purchasing audience. It wasn't reaching my ideal customer. As a matter of fact, on Facebook, I got a lot of friends. They liked my ads, they liked my page, but they were not becoming customers. And so one of the things I had to figure out is there any kind of solution that can help me? And the answer is yes. Small businesses can become efficient and improve customer engagement. Next slide. So I'm going to just take a few minutes and talk about some of the things that I learned. So what is the impact of not connecting with the ideal customer? Number one, it costs money. I was hiring outreach people. I had an enrollment team. I had someone who did marketing for me, but it wasn't really focused. And I thought I had a good message sometimes, but I really didn't know how to engage people. And so one of the things I did was I looked at what other people were doing. I met Rick earlier when I got on the call, the growth coach. And when I came to Stanford, I saw his ads coming through, and I said, oh, this is how you engage people. This is how you do it. The other thing, it's a waste of time. You get unanswered calls. No one's calling, no one's responding to your ad. I remember I took out some ads online, and I was just the ads were beautiful, but I just didn't have a targeted audience, and that was one of the biggest challenges that I had. So product and service minus the ideal customer, it's a loss of revenue. And so I spent 6 to 8 months just trying to figure out what could I do to engage customers. And when I talk about customers, I'm talking about if you provide a service or a product. Next slide. So what is the solution? So one of the things that I focus on is, what I call customer acceleration program. I will work on getting a better name for that, but right now I'm not as creative as I used to be in my young years. But to help business owners become efficient by one, improving internal customer conversion process. What does that mean? I had a contract one time with a charter school to help them find more students, and they said, we just want you to drive people to our website, but they didn't have a clear internal process as to how did they onboard people. People would call and then they got an answer machine. They had to wait 2 or 3 days. Well, those parents are going to make a decision about what they're going to be doing. Then, cutting the costs. I had a big team. I had an outreach team. I even had an answering service one time. So you can increase the revenue by increasing the number of customers, and I'm going to dive a little bit more into that. But number 4, the big one that I work with all business owners. Remember what I said, I was doing everything. And to be honest, I didn't want to delegate. I didn't trust anyone. I'm the founder of this place. Only I could do it. Only I could reach out to people. And I had to look at delegation and automation. What could I do to make life easy for me? I remember, and Jamaal's going to come a little bit later, but I remember I was doing my own payroll. I was writing checks, trying to pay taxes, and it was a complete mess. And when you're starting up, you're trying to save money. You're trying to save money. You don't want to spend money. You've got all this investment into your company, whether you're an entrepreneur or to a startup. Next page. So here's just a snippet of what I do, and some people call it lead generation, but I just call it targeted lead generation. And so one of the things that I learned is that I didn't have a profile of who my customer was. Where did they live? What was their income? What was their need? And then I started looking at target engagement. So for example, looking at small business insurance companies who needed to increase the number of clients coming to their business. People would see the ads, they would be out there, but then I started drilling down. Okay, what about us targeting students that are graduating from high school, got their driver's license and their first car going to college? And so I started looking at targeted engagement. And then I started looking at social media. I have to be very honest. I was terrible on social media. I had no presence at all. And I'll be honest, I had almost a social media phobia, that I was like, oh my God, I got to remember to put things on Twitter and Facebook. And it's just a lot. And I decided I wasn't going to do it. It took too much time. Well, the customer is on social media. So if you're not on social media, then you're going to miss them. Working with some of them, the small businesses that I work with, many of them that had restaurants didn't have an online presence for customers to be able to make orders. They were still just relying on phone calls. Emails, the old-fashioned, the letters that we used to mail at one time, that is what emails are, and continue to keep your clients engaged by updating them through emails. Increase your website traffic. Sometimes you can't answer every single question, but if you can put the information on your website and drive it to their website so they have an idea as to what is the services that you offer, how can they sign up for them. Bookings and enrollment, having a process, and these are just things that I've learned. And some companies here may be big and say we've already got this, but this is really talking to the person who's the startup, the small business, who's got 3 to 5 employees. Booking enrollment, just finding a process to do automatic booking and enrollment, and then your company platform. Make sure that you've got a platform that clearly describes how your services are going to be a benefit Don't worry just about the cost, but how are people going to benefit from your services? And then, and I'm not going to go through all the slides, but just want to just talk about the bottom. One is I didn't have a script. I didn't have a way to send a message to people. I like to write long letters, and I would write these long emails. Join me. I'm a great guy. I'm from New York. I'm a business coach, 30 years in the business. And I had to learn how to simplify it to get to the point. People want to know, how are you going to help me? Then the other thing was I learned the importance of redirecting or respond or following up with people who don't respond. I get emails and I don't always respond. It doesn't mean that I don't want the service or talk to someone, but maybe I'm busy, maybe I didn't understand. But taking them and putting them in a sheet, a Google sheet, and going back and saying, I sent the email to 30 chamber members, 12 responded, but those other 8, they didn't respond. It may not be that they didn't want your service, but maybe you didn't make a connection. The other thing is using apps like LastPass, using apps to be able to share information across your team is something that can help you become efficient. Next slide. I'm not going to read through this, but this is an example. I'm going to give you 2 examples of other things that you should do. Get testimonials. Get people to say how great you are. Just have that person come in and then put a percentage of how has this helped this person. And so here's a small business testimonial that I can say to someone, this is a real person that I have helped, and this is what they saw as the benefit. Next slide. I work with enrollment. So I work with clients, but I also work with schools who need to increase their enrollment. Get a testimonial under different categories to show people, although you are focusing on customer engagement and you are helping them find more bookings, find their ideal customer, get as many testimonials as you can. And these testimonials have been key to me because people could say, oh, okay, I'm gonna Google that school to see, oh, that's a real school. Oh, so you provided a real service. So the last thing I'm going to do before I turn it to Jamaal, next slide. I'm not going to go through this, but I want to give you what I call my cheat sheet. And this is from my lessons learned. LinkedIn is great for telling your company story. You know, I was always trying to figure out how to use LinkedIn, how do you use Facebook, but I'm not going to go through this, and we can go through the Q&A, but just wanted to give you my cheat sheet of what I thought worked for me. And LinkedIn, if you're looking to hire, if you're looking to showcase your product or your service, LinkedIn is the place, especially if you have a service, because that is more of your, where more of your business, your entrepreneurs, your decision makers are going to be there. Facebook is very good for branding. Just putting it out there and branding. And I don't know about you, but sometimes, you know, people are sending things and I'm like, ooh, let me stop what I'm doing because I want to take a look at that European handbag that they have there that I could get for my wife. Service products. And I want to distinguish that, you know, if you're a coach, if you're selling a business solution, LinkedIn is a good place. Facebook, if you're selling products, apparel, things like that, that's a good place. If you have a social cause, Facebook is a great place to do that as well. But I want to go to this last column, the app toolbox. Remember, I said one of the things is to become efficient. And, you know, I'm one of them old guys too that I got to call a niece and nephew and say, come show me how to use this. But I really have learned the power of using the toolbox to become efficient. And LastPass is good because now what I can do, I have a virtual assistant that helps me with outreach, with booking, and I can give them access to my LinkedIn, my Facebook, but never share my password. Slack is good. You can talk to your entire team. You're on the go. You don't have to make a call. You can go to Slack and you can run almost your entire business from Slack. You can talk to the outreach team and say, these are the things I need for you to do. You can let someone know if that a customer was not satisfied with a product. PayPal, if you don't have a lot of money and you aren't set up, use PayPal to set up invoices. QuickBooks, Hootsuite. Hootsuite, you can use Hootsuite to publish posts across several social media platforms at one time. So now my virtual assistant, we figure out what is the ad that we want to run or what do we want to promote. And then we use that to go across Hootsuite. So we're posting all the time. And what I'm learning is just keeping your audience warm. Is to say, hey, this is the person, what they do. So the last two things is one, Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is just very important. So right now on Sales Navigator, I'm looking for entrepreneurs. I'm looking for small business owners. It helps me find the ideal customer that I'm looking for. And then lastly, Google for Business. I'm just sad to say that I have ignored this for a long time. I had one email system, I had one CR system, and then things weren't talking. Then I moved over to Google and got my whole team a Google account, Google emails, and now I can see all the analytics there. But these are just some of the things that I think can help us become efficient and productive as we try to engage clients. And so with that said, I want to go to the next slide, and I want to turn this over to Jamaal. And this is the way that small businesses work together, is that I met Jamaal because I was trying to find a tax expert that could work with some of my small businesses who needed help understanding the PPP program. So I said to him, why don't we work together? We complement each other. We are not in a competition. Why don't we work together? And so it has been a good experience of us sharing our expertise. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jamaal.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Eugene, for sharing the presentation with me. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor to do this. Listen, guys, it's early in the morning and I love engagement. So what I'm going to talk about, my little 2 slides, I'm going to have a webinar in January that I will talk about it for like over an hour. But today, we're going to cut that bad boy to 5 minutes because I want to hear from you guys. Long story short, I'm a virtual accounting firm. We do representation, meaning if you have issues with the IRS or any state department, preparation, any tax return, whatever business tax return you have, and consulting. We do a lot of consulting with our clients, and we have clients in Pennsylvania, California, New York, and that's the beauty of dealing with us. So today, guys, my slides is going to be based on my experience representing over 100 people in front of the IRS and various tax departments. Because the way to survive this pandemic is going to have to be a mental thing with business owners. Yeah, tax deductions are cool, but when I represent people in front of the IRS, the #1 problem, how they got to the 6-figure debt that they have, or 5-figure, they trust their tax accountant too much. And we're going to go by why that's a danger. Please go to the next slide. And like I said, guys, usually I talk about this for an hour, but I want to hear from you guys. So let's do this. So to survive the pandemic, it's all going to be about your relationship with your tax accountant. You got to be on the same page with him or her on, how to move forward and survive and thrive. And like I said, I have a service that I don't try to steal you from your tax accountant, but I have a service called Audit Your Tax Accountant. And basically what that means is that I will review your tax returns and see whether or not they're doing the right thing, or is there any red flags that you should be aware of. But it is not for me to tell you to leave your tax accountant, and it's not for me to say that person's a bad person, but you always should have a second eye, because you'd be surprised what goes down when businesses get audited, how different your tax accountant will act if you don't have the right tax accountant. So here's 5 things that I want to go over real quickly. Make sure to ask your tax accountant if he or she is available year-round. Try to stay away from tax accountants that's only available up until April 15th, or after April 15th, you can't find them. You'd be surprised how many, when people get letters, how common it is for people not able to get to their tax accountant. Don't go to a tax accountant that promised you the world. Listen, if somebody's promised you all these refunds and all these big tax shelters without seeing your documents and without hearing your story, you got to be mindful of that person. That person may be trying to take your money, may try to do aggressive stuff. As a tax accountant, I know where to look for where tax accountants hide certain deductions that you would never ask questions on. And I got tons of story on that, but I want to hear from you guys. Number 3, recognize that all CPAs don't know taxes. I'm a road agent. We're not going to get into that. You could Google that. But here's the thing. Sometimes most people, they don't want to check if the person is really a CPA. I know tons of stories of accountants that put CPA behind their name that are not CPAs. Check their license. And number 2, CPAs, they claim of fame is really auditing public companies. That doesn't mean that they know how to handle small business taxes. So you got to interview that person. Just don't say, oh, you got a CPA, I'm just going to trust you with my life and my business. That will get you in trouble. Number 4, don't stick with a tax accountant because you're too scared to leave or worry about hurting their feelings. Man, I saw people small businesses get in trouble because they was with a tax accountant for over 10, 15 years. They trust that person. They like family and stuff like that. But when they got that letter from the IRS and, somebody like myself reviews their tax returns, it's like, oh my goodness, you didn't see that? But listen, when you get audited, you can't say, oh, I didn't know, because always remember, people, when you sign a tax return, you are telling them that you understand every line to be true and you review it. So just don't have somebody rush you to sign a tax return. That signature and date means a whole lot, okay? And like I said, I'm going through this thing very fast because I want to hear from you guys. You should want a tax accountant that is straightforward. Watch out for slick talking accountants that makes taxes and accountants seem like a simple task. Trust me when I say taxes is not simple. So you want somebody to break it down to you. I do not care if it's boring. You got to listen through it. If somebody say, oh, we could do this, boom, 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 you might want to think twice about that tax accountant. So listen, guys, these are 5 things to look out for when you do a mental check and saying, is this tax accountant is right for me? Because it's a relational thing. And what I kind of compare it to, I can compare it to dating and marriage. You just don't want to marry somebody just because they look good, meaning in case, oh, they got a CPA license. You want to get to know that person, because in marriage, it's like, because I've been married for 13 years. I know I look like I'm 12, but I've been married for 13 years. You want to know that person got your back when things are bad also, not when things is all good and rosy. So you need to have that conversation and that internal talk with yourself. Let's go to the next slide. All right, listen, if anything that the pandemic taught us, it taught us that, man, we cannot assume that everything is going to be gravy and everything's going to go as planned. So moving forward, guys, I want y'all to really take realistic budgeting very seriously. I want you guys to conservatively figure out how's it going to be in 2021. My wife's a nurse. I'm going to tell you the real, because I know I got inside information. 2021 ain't going to be no rosy year because we got a vaccine. I know our sponsor knows a little more about that, but it's still going to be tough with the pandemic and the thing. So budgeting is going to be very important. So step number 1, estimate the projected income streams. Think forward. We know that some things are going up and some things are going down in the pandemic. You got to think that through. Number 2, determine your fixed costs. Fixed costs is like rent, sometimes utilities if you maybe have employees or inventory. So you got to have a tax accountant to think this through with you. Number 3, variable expenses. That could be like budgeting, that could be like marketing, stuff that goes up and down. Because let's say if you have a business that makes the most money in the holiday, that's when it goes up, and then summer goes down. That's like variable expenses. Determine one-time expenses. Maybe you might buy like some type of equipment, or you might enroll to some type of program that's one time. And all these come together, guys. They all make sense in the end. And then some, like I said, step number 5, summarize everything together. Put it together, paint that picture. Have that conversation with your tax accountant. We cannot afford to be lazy doing business in the pandemic. You have to take the time and effort to think these through. And the first thing is your relationship with your tax accountant. And the next thing, once you have that great relationship with your tax accountant, have these conversations about realistic budgeting. And then we could talk about credits and budgets and all that stuff. But you got to do the first things first, the first two things that I took first, because you don't want to be one of those people that you get that infamous letter from the IRS. And listen, guys, I do a lot with small businesses. I'm going to do a monthly webinar teaching people from my experiences, from keeping them in compliance and surviving audits. And listen, guys, I want to thank you for the opportunity, but I want to hear from you guys.
Next slide. So, you know, Q&A, any questions that we can answer? Another thing we want to say is that, you know, feel free to contact both of us if, you know, there's anything that wasn't clear, because we tried to be as concise and short as possible. But, you know, you can call us and just say, hey, I'd like to explore this a little bit further. Next slide. So here's our contact information. Take a screenshot. And what we'd like to do, Liz, if it's possible, we'd like to just open it up to see if there's any questions, or maybe someone even has some suggestions that, you know, we didn't even discuss because we were just trying to keep it short. But we want to, you know, Jamaal and I both want to thank all of you for getting up during this holiday to give us a few minutes to talk before you. Liz?
Yes, thank you so much, Eugene and Jamaal. That program was fantastic, super beneficial, I think, to everyone on this call. So thank you for sharing that information. And as Eugene said, at this time, we invite anyone to unmute your mics, turn on your cameras, and just kind of have some open discussion. We'd love to hear what worked, what didn't work for you, and any questions you have for today's speakers. So feel free to unmute, ask some questions in the chat if you can't unmute, and we'll start some Q&A.
Morning, everybody. This is Joanne Lazier with Day One Accounting. How are you doing?
Oh, Joanne, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing, Eugene?
Good, good.
Good, good. So, you know, as you guys know, or some of you know, I do accounting and bookkeeping in the area, and I do very little tax returns. So I wanted to kind of do this with Jamaal. One thing I didn't hear you talk about is about bookkeeping, and I'm one of those strong, you know, I'm one of those strong opinionated people that it's very important with small business owners that they do keep track of their expenses and their revenue, so that it isn't a, you know, end of the year, try to sum it all up and remember everything. So I do a lot of, you know, monthly and weekly bookkeeping. So Jamaal, I wanted to ask you, what is your take on making sure that people are using a program of some kind to keep track of everything, as opposed to just kind of at the end of the year trying to figure it all out?
I'm a big supporter of teamwork. I do understand that some people, there's some bookkeepers that don't do taxes, but leave the taxes to somebody else. So what I encourage my clients to do, if I'm your tax accountant, I want to have that conversation with the bookkeeper, like people like Joanne, and then accountants and the tax accountants. So we can all work as a team, because at the end of the day, we all trying to do the same thing. We all trying to make them survive and thrive. So yes, like she said, the same thing that I said about having a great relationship with your tax accountant is the same thing with your bookkeeper, because at the end of the day, the bookkeeper is the gatekeeper. I need to make sure, I need to feel comfortable that Joanne is entering those numbers correctly, because I'm going to trust them, and the accountant and the client's going to trust them. So listen, guys, it's all about teamwork. If you got a separate bookkeeper and a tax accountant, have a meeting, all of them, and just make it happen. But I love bookkeepers, but like I said, you have to be able to trust your accountant and your bookkeeper.
Joanne, I want to just follow up your comment with one of the things that I suggest to small businesses: as soon as you can, outsource the payroll process and have a bookkeeper work with you. So in the beginning, I tried to do this and I thought I would save money, and it was a mess. And then when I did move to a system, I had to enter all the payroll that I had put out, and how much did you, so I converted over to a payroll system in November. So that means I had to go from January to November and into all this data. I had to have all this paperwork, and it was very painful, and I'll never go back to doing that. So one of my suggestions to small businesses, as soon as you can, outsource that part of it. And even if you're on a tight budget, maybe you talk to someone like Joanne and say, Joanne, can you help me with the bookkeeping part of this, reconciliation with the bank accounts, payroll. So then when you turn it over to someone, it's in the setting. And one of the good things that I did is I quickly adopted QuickBooks for small businesses.
But one last thing I want to say in regards to Joanne is don't discredit compare somebody like Joanne to like a major big app or major company, because the value that you get from somebody like Joanne, somebody that kind of more cares about you, you're not a number to like these big companies. So you really want to think beyond just I like this this app because it's cheap, but Joanne gives you that relationship. She cares. She's gonna know your name. She's gonna go, oh, Eugene, are you all right? And stuff like that. It's genuine, and you can't beat that. So when you do that comparison shopping for bookkeepers and accountants, keep that in mind. That's very important.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for tax preparers. You'd be surprised how many people come to me and I have to do a cleanup because they went to their business owner and they went to somebody like Liberty Tax or H&R Block, these types of big types of companies like that are not around all year long. They are very seasonal. And if you walked up to their door in May, there's a sign on there, kind of like gone fishing.
Yes.
So you do definitely need someone like Jamaal as far as being a tax preparer, because of the fact that number one, he's going to be there, but also I'm sorry, my dog is scratching. Number one, he's going to be there, but also the fact is that he's going to customize the tax return according to your business. So those larger businesses are not interested in hearing about the money that you took out of your retirement to put into your business, all the story behind it. And that's so important when you're developing your financials and having someone like Jamaal be able to actually do your taxes and do them correctly. There's a story there that needs to be input into the tax return.
Can I hire you as my marketing agent? Thank you, Joanne. I can see we both have love and appreciation for each of our chosen occupations. Does anybody else have a question?
I just want to make a comment. I thought this was a great presentation and really appreciate your time, Eugene and Jamaal, for sharing some of your wisdom with everybody. So lots of good takeaways from today. And so that's great. And Eugene, definitely, you and I will follow up and catch up. I think this would be a really good opportunity.
Beautiful.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I wasn't able to start the video. It won't allow me.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you so much for all of the information that you shared. Eugene, I do have a question for you. My name is Bianca, and I manage an upscale barber lounge in the Poconos. I'm a licensed barber, but I'm also the academic director for a new barber academy. And what I'm wondering is, what suggestions do you have as far as reaching people? Because what I'm doing is I'm pretty much handling everything when it comes to marketing, recruiting. Do you feel that social media is the way to go with that? Because that's pretty much my goal at this point, is trying to get more bodies in these seats to so that, because it's a brand new school. So obviously we don't have a ton of students registered at the moment, but what do you suggest when it comes to that?
One, I would say we should sit, and have a conversation. But my first thing is, what I try to say to people, you started on the end where going to social media. And what I want to look at is, how are you organized to get this done? So for example, if you go to social media and 50 people call you, is there a process in which you can enroll them, that you can address them? So for example, I reach out to someone and I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. I connect with them on LinkedIn. Could we schedule a time to talk? And we're talking in 2 days. In between that time, I send them a letter with testimonials or a letter saying, this is how I can work with you. So I'm warming them up before we get there. So my first thing is, I think the thing is just to take a look and see how will you organize, because one of the worst things is if you keep people responding, if you get people responding and you're not prepared to enroll them. Now, I want to go back to your question. I'm working with Pocono Tire and Company, and they hired me and they said, one of the problems that we don't have enough automotive technicians. So we reached out to employment agencies and et cetera. We didn't get the kind of the kind of outcome we expected. So I said to him, I think we're going about this wrong. We should grow the population. Let's go to the technical schools and reach to their alumni who have been out in the field for a while, who are certified. And so next week, we are having an open house with a couple of technical schools that is going to give us a pool to look at that. So one is, I would just be interested in what's your process of converting the ideal customer from a customer to someone who is enrolled in your school. And then social media, yes, I think it's important. And I think the thing is, my short answer is, yes, it's important. That's why I mentioned on one of my slides, what's the profile of the customer you're trying to reach? For example, me, I used to get my hair cut every week before the pandemic. And I am so loyal to my barber in New York. I've been cutting my hair myself. I got to do a better job. But the thing would be, develop a strategy around the profile of the ideal customer you want. Because I think Facebook is one of those places where your ideal customer is at. And then drill down some more. How can we focus on the zip codes that you want to reach out to? So that's a short answer, but I would say give me a call, and I want to say lastly, with Jamaal and I, when we say free consultation, that means free consultation. You can call us and we can sit and talk. Okay.
Fantastic.
Hi, guys.
Any more questions? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Nate Klein. I'm with the Ambassadors Council down here in the Lehigh Valley. Wanted to first off thank you guys for joining and hosting this presentation. It was very helpful. Jamaal, Eugene, loved it. And thanks Liz and Michael for hosting, and Populytics for sponsoring everything. And I want to apologize for my appearance. I'm still in my hoodie here, but wanted to just kind of open up with a quick question for you, Eugene, more so on the coaching side of things. Throughout this whole pandemic, it's been quite challenging. I've been in 13 years in IT, and this past year, I've been one of the positive statistics. I launched a dealership for the leading provider of smart home automation services solutions called Vivint. So they're the leading provider for smart homes. Basically, we provide smart home security solutions, right? And it's a 1099 contractor thing for right now. So my question is, how do you commented on, as a startup sole proprietor entrepreneur, you have all these things going on and you're managing the payroll, the books and all this, and you're managing marketing and outreach and business development and all those things, customer retention. How do you do that? I know your one point was delegate. Well, how do you delegate to somebody that's they're not on your payroll, right? We're building developing teams under us, but it's all 1099. They're not employed by us, if you will, yet. It'll still remain that way, but we're going to potentially file and register an LLC, my partner and I, but for now it's just going to kind of be open. So how do you motivate? What are some tips and suggestions you have to help inspire and motivate others? I've been reading lots of books around this, and and getting, self-help and teaching myself things. But what advice do you have to help inspire and motivate others to want to, first of all, go out and knock doors? We're direct to consumer, so it's B2C, not B2B, right? It's B2C, and it's in a pandemic, so we're going up, getting in your face, and I mean, we are considered life sustaining, so it's very important, and it's deemed life essential. So we are able to operate and go knock on doors. Obviously, we take the right approach. We have our masks on, things at the door. What tips and advice do you recommend to help building and growing a team where they're not employees, so we can't tell them what to do? We have to just kind of lead and inspire.
I've been in your shoes, and that is a challenge that when they are a contractor, they feel like that. I'm just a contractor. I'm just to do and I'm just to whatever's mapped out into my contract. So one of the things is, for example, I have 2 virtual assistants that help me with this, and technically they're not employees. But one of the things is, I focused on the revenue. That is revenue sharing. How many bookings, not just calls, but how many bookings you make could determine. So I've done little things like they've got a set fee, but if you reach a certain number, I will give them $500 that they could use towards supplies. However, they could use it towards anything that they wanted to use to. I also tied my plan to the kind of customer that is paying. That if you're working with a nonprofit who needs some help and you're charging them $500 a month, but you've got a charter school that's giving you $1,000 for each student, that's a big ticket item. So then there's another caveat. So what I try to do is create these carrots that there's always an opportunity for you to grow and stay with me, because it costs time to train, it costs time to invest. And I clearly understand your challenge because, and I share my faults. When I first started with reaching out to charter school, I bombed. I had people out on the street in July and August, and they didn't want to go. They were just like, I don't want to go out there. So then I had to move to more social media engagement until things got a little clearer. And then I started doing targeted outreach, train state, wherever my ideal client met. But my short answer is creating those carrots, because let's be honest, people are usually looking for another opportunity, and sometime on your time. Sometimes they're on your time and they're looking for another job. And trying to create that loyalty is something very important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we have actually come up with a dealership incentive program. Yep. We call it a dealership, DIBS program, right? So where we do provide them some incentives to get to their numbers, because the company takes care of us. They handle all the marketing. They give us all the tools we need to go out and sell. And we're coming up with incentives for them to, in addition to what the dealership provides or the corporate provides, because of the fact we get overrides and we're going to reinvest in our team. So we're doing that. But all the marketing, everything's done. We're doing everything. So I've been doing all the marketing. We create all the hangers, the flyers. We're going out and we create campaigns around it. But I was just wondering if there's any other advice to help inspire and motivate.
I had an outreach team too. And what I tried to do was just create targeted outreach for them that would keep them safe. I mean, that is a big challenge right now for anyone who has to do contact with the community, is just trying to create a safe environment, a safe strategy for them.
Right. Thank you.
So I know that we're coming up on the 9 o'clock hour, and I want to say the young lady had a question about the barber school. If you send me your information in the chat, maybe we could schedule a time to talk. And I want to say, lastly, I want to thank our sponsor. I want to thank Liz, and I know Mike is somewhere. I love Mike. Anytime I call Mike and say I need, he responds to anything I need. And I just want to say to anyone on here who's not a member of the chamber, you should become a member of the chamber, because they're a big support. Lastly, I don't know everything. And I think that we as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we should keep this dialogue going so that we all get better and we all learn more and we share this information out there because we're all connected. And so with that said, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to connect and present. And our contact information is there. Feel free to give us a call. Send us some of that fruit cake that you have at your house that you haven't finished off. Any eggnog that's left, just let us know and we'll find a way to get together. So want to thank everyone. Liz?
Thank you so much, Eugene. I believe that it is all the time we have. That is all the time we have for today. But like he said, please feel free to contact our speakers as well as Mike and myself. I will be sending a follow-up email out this afternoon with everyone's contact information so you have it. We do have a very busy year coming up. We do have our Coffee and Commerce series again next year. We have the dates up on your screen right now. I will be sharing this with all of you as well. We're going to be keeping this series virtual next year. It just seems to be working out. So we're going to keep this one virtual, but we do have plenty of in-person events that we hope we can see you at in 2021. The Chamber is here to serve you for all your business needs. So please feel free to call our office at any time. This does conclude today's event. So have a wonderful day, everyone, and a very safe and happy new year. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.